From the liberal Northeast comes a lone voice of truth. Honest commentary in dishonest times. Think deeper with Juan Newsom. This is the Cure Radio Program. This is the Cure.
Hey folks, it's Juan and Cat, Cure Radio. We're here. This is day, I believe, 54 of the coronavirus lockdown. We all have cabin fever and we're ready to go out, especially Cat.
I sympathize with you, but Georgia is the free land.
Oh God,
we're living free out here.
I need to move to damn Georgia.
I mean, it's beautiful in my area. I'm not in the jogger area, so you don't have to worry about it.
Did you see where Cuomo got all these old people killed up here in New York?
Yes. And you know what? Nobody in New York seems to know, or if they know, they don't really care.
Is he still presidential material?
This is what I'm saying. They're so desperate to get rid of Biden, who's just a tragic character in politics right now. They're so desperate to get rid of Biden that they're willing to discount all of the failures that Cuomo has had in New York, given this virus, also his management and leadership for the entire time that he's been governor. He's basically failed all of the people in New York. People are leaving in mass quantities. It's like mass migration from New York to other states in the country.
Yep. Meanwhile, in Florida, Ron DeSantis has tackled successfully the coronavirus epidemic. And now Florida is opening back up. They've opened back up their beaches. They've opened their businesses back up. There's only a few restrictions in Florida. And you know, when you look at the case in Florida is a very dense state too. You know, I guess the majority of the public don't know that. Ron DeSantis focused on protecting the elderly, protecting the vulnerable. They did a short lockdown, but they deployed resources to communities where the vulnerable live. Like, that's what you do. You don't just lock down the whole state, you know, indoors. You don't just shut down your economy. Talking about, you know, it's going to be 18 months before we open up, or 6 months, or whatever, or indefinite. You try to. The whole purpose is you try to draw a reasonable timeline so that the businesses in your state can have an expectation and they can plan around that expectation. See, Ron DeSantis did it the right way. So I'm up here in New Jersey, so I'm in an even worse predicament than most New Yorkers because Phil Murphy is clueless. He has no idea what he's doing. He's basically following Cuomo's lead, and we don't really have a plan here. And people are dying here by alarming rates, and you know, there's no plan.
Right. Well, let's now we get a little bit of distance from the onset to now, so we can actually step back and see what happened, right? So what happened was there was this emergency. There was this sense of panic, this sense of fear, this sense of impending doom coming to the United States.
Yeah.
So Trump did what he needed to do, closing the ports and things like that. I'm in Georgia, and like you mentioned, Florida. We took in all those people who were on the cruise ships.
Yeah.
Many of who were sick, international people, whatever, and there was no big increase in infection here when we did that. So they were able to do it in a way that kept other people safe, kept the majority of the population here safe.
Yep.
Now, of course, we have a different geographical situation than you do in New York and the New Jersey,
Yeah.
Connecticut area. However, if we look at just how we approach things, we looked at what China was doing as if China is the leader in how to, first of all, in containing diseases, when
Yep.
we know that that country is basically um, riddled with poverty. There's slave encampments
Yep.
there.
You got
Um,
millions of Muslims in re-education
not
camps.
not just Muslims. Forget the Muslims. What
Christians
about
too.
what about the regular population?
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
billion people under military control.
Yep.
You know, not just the Muslims. Like
Yep.
that's that's where people want to argue, but all of them are
Yep.
being controlled. So if you look at how they approach their citizens as vile, infected criminals who
Yep.
needed to be locked down and locked in to their homes so that they didn't infect all of the upper echelons. That's really what
Yep.
happened. And
Yep.
that's exactly what they're doing in New York and New Jersey. They're not treating you like a regular human being with freedoms and rights. They're treating you like a contagious carrying infection spreader.
Well, I
Like
mean, well, that's the thing. That's what links liberalism to the Chicoms. I mean, look, when you look at how China handled this, and liberals, it's sad because they agree with the Chinese government more than they agree with Donald Trump. You know,
yeah,
that's the truly sad part.
and if you look at how the Chinese operate,
Yep.
they have little to no regard for the human lives
Yep.
that they're in charge of, basically.
Exactly.
So then you have the governor of Michigan, the governor of New Jersey, the
Yep.
governor of all these states where you have a high crime, high poverty population in the inner cities,
Yep.
Chicago, Detroit, all kinds of parts of New York, New Jersey, and you have a same type of hierarchy where the governor thinks that they're the kings or queens, and
Hmm.
what they dictate is how you're going to follow suit. So you could go to the store, but don't buy this, that, and the other thing. What difference does it make if you're already at the store? And by the way, if I go to the store, why can't I go to the store to shop for groceries? That takes me 40 minutes, but I can't go buy a t shirt at a retail store.
Yep.
You
She's
know, it
saying
makes
it
no
makes no
sense.
sense. Yeah. I don't know why retail is shut down either. You have J. Crew who's filing for bankruptcy, one of my favorite stores. And then you have other retail, you have GameStop, for example, that's closed like a couple of hundred stores. All of this, it just doesn't make sense. We could have kept our economy open and treated
What
the
we should
vulnerable.
exactly what we should have done, and I said it from the beginning. If you know you are in those high risk groups, you need to take extra precautions and isolate yourself,
Yep.
even from your friends and your family. That
Yep.
is the only way to do it. That is
It's
the
been
only
over.
way to do it. You don't lock down everybody because what happens? Nobody gets locked down.
Well,
How
that's the
many?
cure. That's the
Well,
cure according to liberalism. Okay, these people don't have health care. Let's fuck up everybody else's health care.
yeah.
These people don't have a certain amount of money. Let's take from this group to give to that.
A
Like,
one size fits all.
it's
We
the
all have to
same
be
shit.
equally screwed.
Yeah, it's the same shit, man. It
Well,
really
think
is.
about it in New York. They just released their study, right? That said 60% of the people have been infected by staying at home,
Yep.
which is exactly what they said from the beginning. People in China got infected from their relatives, from
Yep.
people they lived in the same house with. So they tell you don't go outside. Why? So you could sit in your house, infect your whole family, and die? Like, that's basically what they're doing.
Hmm.
They're trapping you into your trapping you not by how China did it with actually locking the door, but trapping you by fear. So now let's project forward, right? We have taken a step back. Now let's project forward. How many people with what 20 something million people out, how many people are traumatized that are going to be suffering post traumatic stress disorder
Yep.
because of the fear of going outside? I think
Yep.
it's called agoraphobia, where
Yep.
you're like afraid to go outside. How many people are now going to be suffering with other mental illnesses because of the stress and the fear of the media? And then you're afraid that other people are going out. So you have fear compounded by other people not listening to orders and taking direction. When you have one person that isn't social distancing, nobody is social distancing, because that one person infects 5,000 and those 5,000 infect another 5,000 exponentially, which is
Yep.
why we have this problem in the first place.
Well, not only that, just the economic carnage that's taking place. You have nationwide almost 1 million healthcare workers that are either temporarily furloughed or laid off. And then you spoke to mental health. The mental health system is going to be overrun and overloaded after this is over. I mean, this is like, I don't want to compare it to 9/11, but in terms of the impact, because this is going to impact the entire country. Um, the mental health system nationwide is going to be overloaded with people that have suffered, people that have, lost jobs, lost assets. They might have lost their house, their livelihoods. They couldn't resume, as soon as we open up, a lot of people aren't going to be able to resume as business as usual when the economy fully opens back up. So, you know, it's just unfortunate that, they use this, baloney um, baloney model, computer model that predicted, anywhere from 1 to 2 million deaths. We're seeing, President Trump took decisive action. Thank God. We're sitting here. We're not even looking at nowhere near that, and we're we're in the uncharted territory. Possibly, if we don't get this economy open back up soon, going into like a depression-like status in terms of economic growth and opportunity.
Well,
It's
the difference though is that this was they created this
Yep.
recession depression,
Yep.
and it can be turned around. So like back in the day when they had the first depression, it was the entire country, um, uh, all the states, everybody was suffering because there was no way to make money. There was no method. We have the method.
Yeah.
We have all the tools in place to get started again. And it comes down to where you live,
Yeah.
right? Georgia was number one. We opened up, and people have that fear, individuals,
Yep.
but the business owners opened their business, clients started going to the salons, going to shopping again. I cannot tell you how I didn't even go into Walmart yesterday because it was so packed.
Wow.
I didn't even want to go through the trouble of finding a parking spot.
Wow.
So it was like, and I figured it's Mother's Day. People wouldn't, they would be home doing whatever. People were out shopping. The other thing is the supply chains are all jacked up because you have people who can't gain access to the stores that they want. So they go to the other stores. And wipe out their shelves.
Wow.
So like
Yeah.
I was in Walmart where I would have gone to a Michael's or something like that to get art supplies. I
Mm-hmm.
was in Walmart, there was not one tube of paint. There was no canvas, there was no, I'm like, what the heck? But people are doing arts and craft, you're doing homeschooling, you're doing different projects around your house.
Wow.
So we just need to get everybody open and up and running so that you can have some kind of normalcy and you'll feel better about getting back to work when you
Mm-hmm.
see other people operating normally. In a state like yours, where everybody's locked down,
Yeah.
everybody's collecting unemployment,
Yeah.
nobody's traveling here or there, your mindset is just different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you're on day 54.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not on day anything. Like that ended last week. We're not counting the days here anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
just a totally different mindset based on where you live, based on the person that you put into power in that
So
location.
so basically you live in America and I don't.
Right. A free America. Yeah. Yeah. They got you quarantined to your home and neighborhood
Mm-hmm.
because nobody wants anybody from the New York, New Jersey area. You cannot fly somewhere and not be quarantined. They take
Mm-hmm.
temperature. I mean, I did go into the salon and they did take my temperature
Mm-hmm.
and they had the doors locked and it was by appointment only,
Mm-hmm.
per the regulations. And people had to sit in the car, call the phone number. They put the number on the door, then the manager walked out. She took you had to sign a paper. She took the temperature and you walked in. And there was no
Mm-hmm.
chit chatting. You're not sitting in a sauna. You're not doing any of that. You go in, get the service, and you go out. So I do recall my client, we would normally have a regular conversation,
Mm-hmm.
but we didn't talk about anything.
Mm-hmm.
She had her mask on. I had my mask on. But then my other client didn't care. She didn't want to have a mask. She didn't want to be, constrained or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
that's her
Mm-hmm.
prerogative. So, and she chit chatted with me the whole time, and it was very normal. So you get you're gonna get
Depends on how
all
the
these
person
different
feels.
people, yeah, and what their circumstances are. I don't know what this lady might have or have in her home
Mm-hmm.
that she doesn't want to
Mm-hmm.
take back. But then when I left all my product there. I left my outfit there. Everything gets cleaned and washed there, and I'm not bringing it back to my house.
Yeah.
We could do that if that's what we need to do to make people feel confident and secure that we're taking all the best measures to avoid any kind of spread of the virus. Then let's do that.
Mm-hmm.
It'll start to subside. People will start, slowly going back into their normal habits and routines or whatever. And some cleanliness measures will stay. I appreciate all the people at the fast food places, the restaurants. I appreciate the fact that they wear masks and you
Yeah.
can see them wearing gloves,
Yeah, they're
you
very.
know?
I mean, the restaurants have been very good.
Mhm.
On another note, I wanted to ask you about something because if you watch CNN and MSNBC, and I have, of course, because of this, I have to kind of peek over there and
You need to know what the enemy is saying.
you read the New York Times. It just seems like they don't give a damn about the economy first.
Well, they're still
And
getting paid.
they're still getting paid, of course. And then B, they put out so much disinformation about Trump and his response and the timeline. It just infuriates me because people are literally out here freaking dying. And they're relying on these news outlets to give them credible information, and they're getting the wrong stuff. I mean, they're just, I mean, people are literally out there now. And see, when you look at, they're basically they're basically rolling this up to be a campaign tactic against Trump. You can already see them placing the blame. What what he could have done different. He got intelligence reports in November, which was a total lie by ABC that they never retracted. What do you think of all of that?
Well, this is the game that they play. So you can't be mad at the players, right? You can't be mad at the game. You could only be mad at the players. But on the flip side, I think that Trump hitting them in those conferences with all the hypocrisy of the media and all their twisted ways and the way he hits hard at the
Hmm.
journalists, he really is capable of offsetting that misinformation with people who
Hmm.
would be available to listen to him anyways.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to get, like, all my friends are basically Bernie Sanders supporters. They would vote for Hillary again. This is their mindset. They're not
Yeah.
changing. They hate that Trump grabs pussies. Like, this is who they are. Okay, this is
Yeah.
they haven't gotten past the they'll let you grab their pussy comments. They
They
just
need to
haven't
get
gotten
on that
past
shit.
that. They haven't gotten past that. They're not going to get past it. We just have to accept the fact that those folks are not voting for Trump. But who is going to vote for him? They're
The
not
independents.
listening. They're not listening to the Rachel Maddows. They're not
Hmm.
listening to all those
Hmm.
folks because they just parrot each other, say the same stuff, and give no information on how we're going to fix anything. And if you
Hmm.
look at a report that just came out, talk about misinformation, the coroners have been disputing the COVID death rates. And there's a new adjusted rate that shows that it's closer to 47,000 people once you take out a pneumonia and flu from a regular pneumonia and flu season,
Hmm.
which means the number probably is even lower than that if you figure that 40,000 to 50,000 people died from just the regular flu
Hmm.
in the previous year.
Yeah.
And this
Wow.
year was supposed to be worse anyways.
Yeah, the pneumonia
So,
numbers are down.
right, but they're not down. They're only down because they've increased the COVID. So the fact that you have to now parse out what is a flu, what isn't a flu, what's a virus of this strain is like ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. And
Yeah.
you can see it playing out. Younger people do not care. Kids, you could tell them all day people are getting real sick. They do not care. They don't see it, so they're not behaving like psychos. We have been conditioned to hear medical experts,
Yeah.
the experts say something and then go into a panic where we have to go buy aspirins and Tylenols and we get wipes and we get hand sanitizer and we like
Yeah.
try to medicate, get
Yeah.
our arsenal of medications in case the big fever comes. Or
Yeah.
how do you fight the cough? You need a decongestant. You need this, you need that. And kids
Hmm.
are like, it doesn't taste good. I don't want to take it. I'll deal. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, they are.
They're like,
Yeah.
I'm not drinking that. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of what has your conditioning been, basically. What have you learned to be afraid of? And how susceptible are you to mentally being influenced by the media? If you're susceptible to all of the crazy shit that they say on TV, then nobody could convince you otherwise.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Nobody. Not
Yeah.
even facts, not data, nothing.
Yeah.
You
I've
just
tried
have
that.
that. Yeah.
I've tried that at Appear is nothing but liberals, and we were talking to some friends yesterday, and I'm like, how can you blame Trump? I said it's ridiculous. First of all, he did the travel ban really swiftly, and he did it. He did it within like 2 weeks of the first case, and
Yeah.
he had little to no information to go off of. It was basically a gut reaction. They didn't know anything about the virus until December 31st. And up to that point, up to mid January, the WHO and the Chinese Communist government, they were denying that the virus was passable easily from human to human. So what was he going to base his decisions on in terms of testing if it hasn't really been confirmed if the virus was easily passable between human and human? I'm like going through all of this. I said, look, first of all, it's not Trump's fault. Blame Clinton for arming the Chinese and allowing them to get certain technology. Blame George W. Bush for allowing them into the World Trade Organization and the WHO. And blame Obama for sitting there and doing absolutely zero while they spread their influence and grow their military and take jobs from us. Like,
Well, I see that perspective, but in another sense, I think a lot of it is Trump's fault in
mm-hmm,
the fact that because he is making so many changes
yeah,
and changing the mindset, and really, as conservatives, as Republicans, whatever, we have been dying for somebody like Trump to
yep,
finally come and serve it to the hypocritical liberals who want you to share all your stuff. They want you to have a carbon tax. They want you to go green, but
yep,
they drive around in their limousines, fly
and
around in
flying
their
around in
jets,
jets.
and
Yep.
have 3, 4 homes.
Oh
Okay.
my
So
God.
we were dying for somebody like Trump to come. It's his fault because when he was shouting and sounding the alarm that something is going down, we need to take precautions, shut down travel, you had his opposition coming out so hard. They were not willing to listen to what he was saying. They
Mm-hmm.
marked him as a buffoon, marked him as incapable of running the country, his terrible skills, and they told you to do exactly the opposite. De Blasio, go out, enjoy the park. Pelosi, come to Chinatown. It's safe here. Like
Mm-hmm.
every single one of his opponents and his opposition went at him. Biden and Sanders both saying that he was a xenophobe,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yep. I
So
remember.
they didn't care that a virus was coming to attack you.
That's
They
ridiculous.
cared that you not listen to Trump.
It's
So
crazy.
if you are in the group that supports these characters, it is these characters that put you in direct line for getting a virus. They
Exactly.
encouraged you to go into those areas where you would be most susceptible to becoming infected, while all because they hate Trump.
Yep.
So it is his fault, but it's his fault because he's trying to change things and he's making people hate him so much
Yep.
that they would cut their nose off to spite the face.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's some other things I can blame Trump for too.
Yeah.
First of all, day one, Trump, and this is why I differ with. Well, I have a friend who was mentored by Trump, right?
Hmm.
And she told me, and I can kind of understand what she says. She said Trump is the kind of guy that will keep his enemies close.
Oh yeah. Oh
He's just
yeah.
that kind of guy. Me, if it's the Newsom administration, excuse me, folks. I know I want this to be a family show, but I'm going to curse today. Newsom administration, first day, everybody who got hired by Obama, get the fuck out. Okay?
Yes.
Out.
Yes.
Don't.
Especially in those key positions.
What?
However, I will say, um, they did an interview with Melania Trump, right? And she's very obviously
She's sharp.
astute. Yes. She said that she has told him, don't trust this one, don't trust that one. And they target out people who they think are double agents, let's just
Yep.
call them that.
Yep.
And even though they know that this person is gonna screw them, like let's take a McCabe, right?
Yep.
You keep him in that position. Why? Because that guy's gonna flip. He might be doing you dirty, but you need the dirty person to flip so that you
Yeah.
can know the real inside scoop. If you get rid of all of them, you don't have the know, right?
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
true.
easier to handle the people you know you can handle who
Hmm.
are against you, who will then rat out everybody else,
That's an
right?
interesting point, Kat.
So what he did do, what was a mistake, was having Sessions, who recused himself.
Oh my
At that
God.
point, he needed to terminate Sessions and get someone in there like Barr, who could be like, this is all crap. We're not going through this. We're
Yeah.
not doing this, you know? And
Yeah.
then it became this whole legal thing where you're the president. It's not going to look good if you take these steps because it'll look like you're being too authoritarian. So you can't go after criminal. You can't go after Hillary
Yeah.
Clinton and
That's
all
her
her
name.
criminal Hillary criminal and all her activities, even though we know no part of her was on the up and up. He
Yeah.
couldn't go after her because then it's like, well, you can't put your political opponent in jail. This is not one of those countries. Blah 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 blah. You know, even though even though she's responsible for things like Benghazi, she's responsible for
The Russia
stealing money,
investigation.
not only that, stealing money from places like Haiti and
Mm-hmm.
all their her foundation and
Yep.
where all that cash went. Epstein, do we even have to talk about Epstein and their child slave, sex slave islands and
That
come on.
uranium scandal.
Come out, forget it. I mean, you could go on and on and on. And Obama is not clean in any of this.
No.
He's even more dirty than the rest of them.
Yep.
He is a figurehead that is more dirty than the rest of them. And
Yeah.
when things start to come out about how his administration operated, you'll see how cutthroat he really was. All
Yep.
that he ha ha, let's have a beer together. Yeah, okay, okay. No,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. It looks like Bill Barr and John Durham is like really getting shit done. I mean, this whole thing, everybody's talking about the coronavirus, but this whole thing with General Flynn and him being exonerated is like blockbuster. I mean, that's blockbuster news because General Flynn was unfairly targeted. This
Yeah.
guy was denied due process. He was denied his rights. He,
I just don't understand how you could be a general, you could have so much experience with all these kind of characters and not see what was coming
yeah, well, because they're
or
not.
not understand how to look. I'm not a 4-star general. I'm from the hood, and I understand how hood rats operate. I understand how people are self-serving and whatever. And you get a sense when somebody is talking to you,
Hmm.
your gut, your instinct, which
Yeah,
somebody who's a general, you would assume that they have really good instinct, right?
yeah,
So you would assume that he had to feel it when these people came to talk to him. He had to feel it, like what is happening right now? What is going down right now? Like this is not sitting right. And if he didn't have that sense, then I'm glad he's not in the administration.
yeah.
I'm glad.
It could be because he's not really political either. I
You don't have to
mean,
be political. You just have to be human. If
but
somebody comes and stops you to have a conversation, you could tell throughout their questioning
yeah,
if they're trying to manipulate you into
I
saying
agree.
something, if they're trying to persuade you, like it could be the nicest person in the street and they stop you to have a conversation that's like, wait, why are you asking me these things? Why are we having this conversation? Like, wait a
Yeah.
minute, what are you really trying to get at? You know?
Then they, then when they finally brought charges, they tried to, they threatened to go after his son. If he didn't go out, if he didn't plead to some type of charge, it's ridiculous
But
what
then
they
look who
did
he
to them.
chose as a lawyer.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, what is that about?
yeah,
How
yeah,
did you feel protected by having this person basically rob you of your money and not defend you properly?
yeah,
It
yeah.
just doesn't make any
He
sense.
had to sell his house. It was crazy.
It doesn't make any sense, you know? It really, for somebody in that position with that long of a career,
Hmm.
it doesn't make sense how he got taken out like that. You know?
They took him. They took him out quick too, Cat.
Yeah.
They they took him out really
You
quick.
would expect that from Cohen his Trump's ex-lawyer. You would
Yeah.
expect that from him because he's like a
He's like,
bumbling idiot,
yeah,
he's a little bit
exactly.
of a loser. So it's like, oh my God, I'll do 30 years. Fuck it, I'll just take 5. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
you didn't commit a crime, you moron, but that's fine.
I
Go to
mean,
jail.
this guy just totally turned on Trump. But I'm
Yeah.
gonna tell you this, Cat. These prosecutors, that prosecuted General Flynn's case, and these FBI guys, McCabe and Struck and all that. These folks should be in jail. There should be some type of
There's
penalty.
no reason why they're not. There's no
That
reason why they're not.
what the hell is going on with that?
They
These
set
guys should
up,
be in jail.
remember Papadopoulos? They
Yep.
try to set him up.
Oh, they set him up.
Well,
If you
he
read
didn't
through the
fall for it.
details,
He didn't fall for it.
fell for some of it because he got caught up and they planted information within his
Yes.
sphere. That's
Yes.
that's the total.
But this is what I'm saying. He was of sound enough mind to say, like, wait a minute, I'm getting set up here. Something's
Something's ain't
happening here.
right.
And his wife was the biggest supporter when he was in jail. She was on Hannity. She was doing any news show that she can do, saying that this is a setup. This is information planted. This is what really happened. This is, whatever show they're giving you now, this is not reality.
Yep.
She was out there big time, way vocal, talking about, how corrupt the system is and how nobody can like help them. Like
Yeah.
nobody is coming to their defense, and they didn't understand why all of this was going on. If it wasn't for Devin Nunes, bro, we would be living in a totally different country, and Trump probably would not be president.
Yeah, definitely. That he
Okay.
definitely owed Nunez and
Yeah.
a couple other guys. I mean,
Well,
Jim
Jim
Jordan.
Jordan, big
Yep.
time supporter. Well, as far as in the public eye, we don't know how
Yep.
many people behind the scenes,
Behind the scenes. Yep.
but as far as people we've seen that are vocal, that, just trying to be sensible, just trying
Mhm.
to be sensible. It's
Yep.
like people turn off their brain when they get emotional. And
Yep.
the media's job and the liberals' job is to make you as emotional as possible so that then they can feed you the information that they need to feed you. So then you can go on Facebook and parrot everything that they say with passion and conviction,
Well, that's the Democratic Party's MO.
Yeah.
That's why they have the black vote on lock. And I know people hate when I say that, but and the black vote is a very emotional vote. Even the Latinos vote Republican. There's I consider them
Some
swing voters.
segments.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
consider
this
some segments. George W. Bush got 39% of the Latino and Hispanic vote. You just don't. So to me, I consider them swing voters.
Mm-hmm.
Majority will vote liberal. They'll vote socialism, whatever. A lot of Puerto Ricans, they like socialism.
I
Dominicans, they
love
like
it. They
socialism.
love it.
They never really lived on. Well, actually, they did.
Well, I will tell you the difference, and like culturally the difference, and the reason for it. They have in different areas because like Puerto Rican culture, island culture, right? Because not every Hispanic and Spanish person is exactly the same. But Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Cubans,
Yep.
you have multi generational families. And they all talk about the patriarchy, but it's really a more matriarchy
Yep.
where the grandma, the great grandmas, like these are where your traditions and your values get passed down. They're way more religious. And
Mhm.
like I always went to go see my grandmother all the time. Like they were my great aunt, my grandmother's sister, is the one who basically raised me and my brother while my mom was at work. We didn't have a babysitter. She was the babysitter, and that's what they did. So now that my mom is older, she takes care of my aunt, my great aunt.
Mhm.
So she's her caretaker. And that is how families, like that's why families are so tight knit, and you get like 50 Puerto Rican cousins in
Yep.
you know at family functions
Take
because
care of each
of
other.
the yeah. So when it comes also to living and stuff like that, like we'll go to Costco's and I'll split half the stuff with my mom or my sisters or whatever
Yep.
because we don't need the whole thing of Costco's. So we're very much communal with
Yep.
our extended families. Where in white American culture, or even, probably black families, you don't really get that kind of um, that sense of like extended families, like all your cousins and everything. You don't really get that kind of behavior.
That's true.
So that's why they like and appreciate more of a socialist type pattern. Like you want the
Hmm.
freedoms and the capitalism, but you want people to work together
Yep.
to enjoy that.
Yeah. There's also another aspect of that too. At various points of time, when you look at some of the historical events in Latin America and the Caribbean, um, and even some of the islands that were, occupied by the British, there was a strong, you know, there was a strong push. There was a strong socialist influence from Russia that spilled over
Hmm.
into Latin America in the 80s. And, Ronald Reagan kind of put a stop to it, but there was still a ripple effect there because a lot of the islands at the time, um, they were, circulating like communist and socialist propaganda. You had different groups, whether it was Puerto Rico, whether it was Cuba. Of course, the Cubans were influenced by the Russians as well.
Yeah.
Um, the
But
whole
I think you
revolution.
have to remember too the indigenous communities and the indigenous tribes.
Yep.
They behave differently.
Yeah.
And the focus of the family was a lot stronger than it is in other cultures.
Yep.
So you maintain your language, you maintain your traditions, you maintain your religion, you take care of your family, you have certain respect for elders and things like that. So all of that kind of tribal mentality
Yep.
lends itself to the communist kind of
Yeah.
way of doing things,
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. That's very true.
but
But
all of the pitfalls too, right? So if
yeah,
one person doesn't go along with it, then the whole structure starts to fall apart.
exactly.
It's just what it is.
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly. It fell apart in a few places. It's still maintained in Cuba, because that regime is
but because
they're
of the military.
yeah, because of the military. Exactly. They're in charge of, not only are they there, have basically have their boots on the neck of the people, but they're in charge of the currency and the money, um
Resources, all the
and
resources.
other all the resources. So it keeps the current regime in power.
Ugh. Well, I think there's a nice balance that we all can reach. And
Hmm.
it comes down to, your adaptability to different circumstances, which is
Yep.
perfect for right now.
Yep.
When I moved down here, my husband and I have been working from home for probably about 4 years.
Yeah.
And we said for the longest time, people are going to have to adapt to the way we do things.
Yeah.
So, like, but there was a big pushback from our families like, what do you mean you don't have a regular job? How do you not have a paycheck like every week or every other week? How do you know like how you're going to pay this? How are you going to pay that? How do you plan for the future if you don't have a job? We're like, we're creating all of our job, all of our work. And the idea of it was like too risky, too scary, and we're wasting a lot of time because we don't have IRAs and we don't have 401ks and all that
Hmm.
stuff. And I'm just like, now we are have the upper hand because people who never worked outside of the traditional 9 to 5, 40 hour a week job have zero idea how to even get started.
Hmm.
And this is a time when we can thrive. People are afraid their 401ks are dwindling. We buy the stocks we want for the companies that we think are going to blow up. And
Yep.
it just so happened before the lockdown happened, we picked up Zoom, which has exploded. So it's
Hmm.
like when everybody's losing their 401ks, we're making strategic decisions on how to buy stocks and stuff going forward.
That's what we are. I picked up Netflix. I
Oh, we've
picked
been had that.
something like
I
what?
just picked up Delta and United.
Oh wow,
Hmm.
that's a good one.
Well, Soros sold his shares.
Oh
So I'm
wow.
like, we need to go and pick it up. Bitcoin, we had, like a fractional of it.
Hmm.
I'm not into the cryptos because they're so volatile.
Yeah, you just don't know where they're gonna go.
Well, not only that, there's no infrastructure for them to be used in a mass market. And now that things have collapsed in the retail, it's
Yeah,
like, who's taking a Bitcoin?
it's almost.
You
It's
can't use it
almost.
online, really.
Yeah,
So,
it's
but we
almost there.
bought, yeah, we bought Amazon. We have bought
Hmm.
Facebook a long time ago. Like, there's
Hmm.
certain things that you pick up. But if you're doing a 401k, you don't even have the ability to make those decisions for yourself because you're like spread out across tons of industries and whatever financial group your company chose for you.
Mm.
So if you lose 25%, what's your recourse? What do you do? You can't do anything. The money is being managed by another party.
Yeah,
You don't even know what you're involved in, you know? So
yeah.
it's just a matter of like people need to adapt to the new way. And I said it from week 1. When we got to 15 days, people were pissed that I said we are not going back to the way things were.
Hmm.
This is You need to figure out how to change your life to work for you now because the life you had is over. And people were cursing me out online. You're crazy, blah 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 blah. Okay, who's crazy now? 55 days in. Who's crazy now?
Well, Kat,
Okay.
that's why we're doing this show. We changing things up.
I try I don't want to like preach to people, but I just try to outpicture what you could come to expect
Hmm.
moving forward. How many times I have done things on different breathing techniques,
Hmm.
things about eating certain things that will help minimize the inflammation in your body. All of those things are issues that people are dealing with right now. But right now, when you have a major problem, is not when you could start addressing it. You
Yep.
had to have done it before. Now you need medical intervention.
Yep.
Whereas if you would have started, a year ago, 2 years ago, a few months ago, you would be in much better condition to handle the things that are coming at you. Nobody wants to hear that shit.
Yep.
My girlfriend, go ahead.
Kat, think about you're talking about changing things, but things have already kind of changed, right?
Yeah, but some people haven't. That's all.
Think about how different life is now than it was like 5 years ago. And I can go through my week, right?
Oh, yeah.
We order food through Uber Eats when
Yeah.
we order out or, DoorDash or whatever. Sometimes I go out. I've had, I and my kids have had doctor's appointments in the last couple of weeks, and we've done it teleconference through
Hmm.
Zoom or through the hospital app or
Hmm.
whatever, the provider's app. Okay. I've worked from home. My kids done their schoolwork from home, right? So things are, 10 years ago, well, I did kind of see this 10 years ago, but when we were kids, for example, we couldn't have imagined that we would
Yeah.
live this way.
I think it's so much better though.
Yeah, me too.
If you're in a balanced home, let's just make that, the disclaimer. If you're in a balanced home, a safe place, then really your family's influence and being around your kids more and being able to
Hmm.
be in your home and schedule your day how you see fit to get certain work done is
Hmm.
a much healthier way of being than commuting into a space where there's tension, where there's drama, where you have to deal with personalities, where it's
Mm-hmm.
not about the work. So your
Yep.
productivity is not as high as it is when you're not, being bombarded by different people and office gossip and where you're going to go to
Mm-hmm.
lunch and all that kind of nonsense. And
Mm-hmm.
your priorities shift. So it's not about the job. It's
Yep.
about maintaining a balanced life.
Yep.
So a long time ago, we were talking about work-life balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where moms needed to be a certain amount of time
Yeah.
at home
4 o'clock, 4 p.m. You got to be home.
yeah, or partial work weeks.
Yep.
They have people who were splitting up their work weeks and whatever. And I think right now, out picturing, let's say the next 5 years, you are going to get a lot more small businesses being started from home online where maybe, you're more community focused,
Yep.
but not a retailer, not a brick and mortar shop in your community. You're
Yep.
an online shop, you service a certain, little location, and you're the go to business for that area. And you create products in your home or in your local warehousing or manufacturing. I think we're going to see a lot more of specialized micro businesses where people can manage and handle a smaller amount and produce it for their neighbors and then sell it online like Amazon and all that stuff. I think that's where we're heading.
Yeah.
People are
Yep.
super creative,
Yep.
if given the right environment, and if you take advantage of this time, this is the right environment.
Yeah.
You have all your hours back. You have all your 24 hours in the day. What are you doing?
Yep.
What are you creating? How are you living for the next week, month, year?
Yep. Yeah. I
So,
think Amazon and eBay and those sites, Amazon especially, has created a lot of opportunity for folks otherwise, not just, I know I have friends who have written books
mhm.
that have made a ton of money on books, you know. Um, Also, I have friends who have, their own distribution type
Yep,
deal out of their garages.
exactly.
So,
You might not be, everybody's not going to be a millionaire
yeah,
Amazon seller, but you could be 100,000aire,
yeah,
which
I'll
ain't
take that.
bad when you're sitting in your house and you don't
Yeah,
have to deal with anybody else except yourself. And once you get that much money and you have a little expendable income, then you start becoming more creative and thinking of how you can invest into somebody else's efforts.
yeah,
There's another little business. How can I group with them and start building out a larger network, but compartmentalizing it where maybe it's like you're managing other people and investing in their talents. Whereas now we invest in people, but we want them to just do what we want them to do in our company. Like,
yeah,
yeah, you're talented, but this is what I need you to do. And you fucking kill the creativity and you disincentivize people to be better and better. You create this workforce
mm-hmm,
of drones that just mull along. I'll keep paying me that check. You want me to push this button? Okay, just keep giving me my check, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. That's that mentality. I
Uh-huh.
think for some organizations, um, that's changing, or has changed. I mean, Apple is a very flat organization, and there's a lot of opportunities for entrepreneurship.
Right.
I have a couple of friends at Tesla. It's the same way. It's very flat. The leadership there is very face to face, and they look for opportunities for people to come up with ideas and maximize their income potential there. I don't know how Microsoft is. I don't know anybody from Microsoft, but a lot of these tech type companies have really taken like a flat approach. Um, in order to, keep the intimacy there and to keep like the creativity flowing. But generally speaking, yes, you're correct. It's, corporate America, and I've been in corporate for a while, is very top down, and it's very easy to feel like a number
Yeah.
up
Well,
there.
even it comes down to what the skill set of the person you're working for is. If they're not aware of something different, yeah, they'll listen to it, but they know what works for them, and it's so much easier to just continue to do what works for them, and they hire people who are willing to just do what they need to do,
Comply.
and that's it. And that's it.
Mm.
I remember I remember working for one company, and the guy did not know how to like find retrieve files that could be scanned onto the computer.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't understand how it worked. Where is it going? What if I need the piece of paper? So he had someone just putting papers into the file cabinet.
Oh wow.
I'm like, you don't have to do this. You really don't have to do this.
You can live better
It's
than this.
it's all online already. It goes into the cloud. Like, just put whatever you need, label it, figure out a system, and you can retrieve it in any point. And you don't need the girl to go and look in a file and pick out, the piece of paper you signed
Mm-hmm.
2 months ago. You can just
Mm-hmm.
click the button and pull it up. And it was just like, this is the way we do things. Literally, literally, with a stamp, the date stamp,
Oh my
stamper.
God.
I kid you not. And
This is
this was not a long time ago. The date stamp stamper. I was like, holy shit. It date stamps it on Outlook. Like, you just look at the version of it. It'll date stamp and time stamp it. Like, what is the problem here?
it's 1979.
But the mindset was like, this is the way we have to do it. This is how we'll keep track of things. This is how, they're not willing. So you just get people that you put into these positions to help you completely just continue your way of being.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yep. I thought
Hey,
it was.
question: do you think? And I don't know. Do you think this economy is going to bounce right back
Yeah.
after? Yeah.
I think it's gonna blow up even bigger. And there's a lot of underground economy happening right now.
Yes, I was going to say that.
Because I know I get paid for stuff, and I know I pay people. Like, I have this desk type bench thing that I wanted,
Yeah.
and there's woodworkers here in my area who will. They have certain stains, they have certain pieces of wood, they create certain things. You could customize anything. So I'm getting a desk made for my daughters, and we picked out the size, the style, the height of the legs. It's not this IKEA's closed. Okay, IKEA. In a week, I'm gonna get a custom made product for similar price that I would wait to deliver me something that's cookie cutter in all these different pieces in a month.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of people, if you have a skill, and they're in high demand, because we had to go
Making
through
money.
like, yeah, we had to go through like two or three people who didn't have a ton of orders in the queue so that we could get it in a timely fashion. You know what I mean?
Wow, that's
So
funny.
so we're like, damn, if we get orders for this product and we advertise this product, we can have this guy make it and then deliver it, and we just pay him, and we make, whatever other percentage over our sales. So he's gonna make money. We're gonna use his labor, and then we're gonna upcharge, and sell it on our own.
Mm.
I'm like, if he could do customized products, we could just pick a bunch of products that we like, that we think would sell, have this be our base, and have him just cranking shit out.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we could get a few people to do that.
That's awesome.
So there's money being moved around and made if you're in a position to have that, to think about it and to create it for yourself. Where this is what we're talking about. A lot of people are not entrepreneurs. They're workers. So they don't know how to make the shift yet. It'll happen, but they just don't know how to go about it.
Mm-hmm.
So
This is The Cure.